My grandfather died 3 months ago. I still remember sitting by his hospital bed that final night, holding his weathered hand while he slipped away peacefully in his sleep. He left me $2 million in his will. Every single cent went to me, not to my parents, not to my younger brother Dylan. Just me. At the time, I thought it was the greatest blessing of my life. I had been with my girlfriend Sarah for 3 years, and I was already imagining our future together. A house with a white fence, maybe kids, the whole dream. I did not know that money would show me who people really were. Before I tell you how everything fell apart, let me ask you something. Drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from right now. Have you ever trusted the wrong people? Have you ever had someone you love betray you in the worst possible way? If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next taught me the hardest lesson about family loyalty and money. Let me take you back to where it all started to unravel. I am 32 years old. I work as a civil engineer at a mid-sized firm here in Portland, Oregon. Nothing fancy, but it is steady work, and I am good at what I do. I have always been the responsible one in my family, the dependable son, the one who shows up, keeps his head down, and does not cause trouble. My younger brother Dylan is 4 years younger than me, and we could not be more different. He has always been charming and outgoing, the kind of guy who lights up a room when he walks in. Our parents loved that about him. Me, I was just the stable one, the boring one who paid his bills on time and never needed bailing out. When Grandpa got sick 2 years ago, I was the one who took care of him. I visited him 3 times a week at the care facility. I sat with him during the bad nights when the pain got too much and he could not sleep. I brought him his favorite books and read to him when his eyes got too weak. Dylan showed up maybe twice the whole time, always with some excuse about being too busy or too stressed. Our parents visited once a month if we were lucky. They had their own lives, their own problems. I understood that. But Grandpa noticed. He noticed who stayed and who left. When he died, the lawyer read the will. $2 million, all of it to me. The will was crystal clear. It said, "To my grandson Randall, who stayed when others left, who cared when others were busy. May this give you the life you deserve." There was not a single dollar for Dylan, for my parents, or for anyone else. I saw the shock on their faces at the reading. My mom looked like she had been slapped. My dad just stared at the table. Dylan turned red but said nothing. But after a few awkward moments, they all tried to act supportive. Mom hugged me and said, "Grandpa knew what he was doing." Dad patted my shoulder and told me to use it wisely. Dylan mumbled something about being happy for me. Sarah seemed thrilled. She hugged me tight that night and told me how proud she was how we could finally start planning our real future together. We had met 3 years earlier at a friend's barbecue. She was 29, sweet warm, with this laugh that made everyone around her smile. She got along great with my family, always knew what to say to make my mom feel appreciated and my dad feel heard. I had been thinking about proposing. I even looked at rings a few times, though I never pulled the trigger. Now, with the inheritance, I figured it was time. We could buy a house, start a family. Maybe I could even start my own engineering consulting firm like I had always dreamed about. I shared all these plans with Sarah over wine one night. She listened, smiled, told me how exciting it all sounded. I felt like the luckiest guy alive. I had the woman I loved, financial security for the first time in my life, and a future that finally looked bright. For the first week after Grandpa died, everything felt possible. I did not see the cracks forming yet. I did not notice the way my family looked at me when they thought I was not paying attention. I did not catch the hunger in their eyes. But then things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Dylan began showing up at my place more often. He would text me in the morning, asking if he could come by after work. When I asked why, he said he just wanted to spend time with me, that he was feeling down about Grandpa. It seemed reasonable. We were both grieving. So I said yes. The problem was, I was at work during the day. Dylan would come over while I was gone, and Sarah was home. She worked remotely as a graphic designer, so she was always there. At first, she said Dylan just needed company, that he was struggling and needed someone to talk to. I believed her. Why would not I? Then I started noticing things. Sarah became distant. She used to greet me at the door with a kiss when I got home. Now she barely looked up from her laptop. She was on her phone, constantly texting, always angling the screen away from me. When I walked into the room, she would quickly close whatever app she had open. I asked her about it once. She got defensive, immediately saying I did not trust her, asking why I was being so paranoid. I dropped it. I did not want to be that guy, the jealous boyfriend who questions everything. But the feeling in my gut would not go away. Dylan started acting strange, too. At family dinners, he would not make eye contact with me. When I walked into a room where he and Sarah were talking, they would stop mid-sentence and change the subject. It was awkward and obvious, but when I brought it up, they made me feel crazy. Sarah said I was imagining things. Dylan said I was stressed about the money and seeing problems where there were none. My parents even chimed in, telling me grief does weird things to people and I should not read into stuff so much. But my parents had their own agenda. At Sunday dinner one week, my mom brought up the inheritance. She said, "You know, honey families should share blessings." My dad followed up immediately, saying Dylan had been having a rough time financially and could use some help. I felt my jaw tighten. I told them Grandpa left the money to me for a reason. The table went quiet. My parents exchanged a look I could not quite read. Then my mom smiled and changed the subject, but the tension hung in the air the rest of the meal. I tried to brush off the discomfort. I told myself I was being paranoid, that grief was making me suspicious of people who loved me. But then, one afternoon, I came home early from work. There was Dylan's car in my driveway. I walked in and found him and Sarah on the couch, sitting way too close. Her hand was on his knee. They jumped apart the second they saw me. I stood there, my heart pounding, and asked what was going on. Sarah stammered that Dylan was upset about work and needed someone to talk to. Dylan nodded quickly, his face red, saying he was just venting. I did not believe them, but I had no proof of anything. So I swallowed my suspicions and went to the bedroom, feeling like an outsider in my own home. That night, I could not sleep. I lay there next to Sarah, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. I saw the name. Dylan. The text just said, "See you tomorrow." Simple. Innocent, maybe. But why would they have plans she had not mentioned to me? My stomach dropped. I did not say anything. I just rolled over and pretended to sleep while my thoughts spiraled into dark places I did not want to go. 2 weeks later, I decided to come home during my lunch break. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that I just wanted to grab a file I forgot. But really, I wanted to see if my suspicions were justified. I pulled into the driveway quietly and walked in through the side door. There they were, Dylan and Sarah on my couch. Her hand was on his thigh, his arm around her shoulder. They were not kissing, but they were close, too close, and the look on their faces when they saw me told me everything I needed to know. They jumped up like teenagers caught sneaking out. I asked again what was going on. Sarah's voice shook when she said nothing, that Dylan was just upset, and she was comforting him. Dylan backed her up, saying work was stressing him out. I wanted to believe them so badly, but I could not. I told them both to leave. Sarah looked hurt, like I was the one being unreasonable. Dylan left without another word. I sat alone in my house for the rest of the day, feeling like my world was tilting sideways. That night, my parents called and invited me to dinner. Just me, they said. Sarah was not invited. I should have known something was wrong right then. When I showed up, they sat me down and got straight to the point. Dylan needed money. He had lost his sales job a month ago and was behind on rent. My mom said it with this pleading tone, like she was asking me to save him from drowning. I asked how much. My dad said at least $50,000 to get him back on his feet. I felt the number hit me like a punch. I offered to loan him $5,000. My dad actually scoffed. He said that was nothing, that I had $2 million and could not spare a fraction of it for family. I told them I was planning to use that money for my future, for a house, for starting a business. My mom said, "What about Dylan's future? Did not I care about my own brother? I left that dinner feeling sick." When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me. She said my parents had called her, that they were worried about me. I asked why she was talking to my parents about my finances. She ignored the question and said I was being selfish with the money, that it was not like I earned it. That hurt more than anything. She had never talked to me like that before. I asked her why she cared so much about Dylan getting money. She went quiet for a long moment, then said she just thought I was being cruel. We fought for an hour. She ended up sleeping on the couch. I lay in bed alone, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. The next morning, Sarah was in the shower. Her phone was on the bathroom counter and it buzzed. I do not snoop. I never have. But something made me pick it up. The text was from Dylan. It said, "Cannot wait to see you today. He suspects nothing." My heart stopped. I scrolled up through their messages. Months of texts. They were not explicit, but they were intimate. Inside jokes, plans to meet up, messages saying, "I wish things were different," and "I think about you all the time." My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I put it back down exactly where it was and walked out of the bathroom before Sarah finished her shower. I went to work, but could not focus. My best friend Mark noticed and asked if I was okay. I broke down and told him everything. The texts, the weird behavior, the family pressure about money. Mark looked at me with this pity in his eyes and said, I needed to get out. But I still hoped I was wrong. I still wanted to believe there was some explanation that made sense. The following Sunday, my parents insisted on a family meeting. Everyone had to be there. I drove over, dreading whatever was coming. When I walked in, everyone was already sitting in the living room. Mom, Dad, Dylan, and Sarah. I stopped in the doorway. Why was Sarah there? This was supposed to be a family meeting, but no one seemed to think her presence was strange. My dad told me to sit down. He said we needed to talk about Grandpa's will. He said it was unfair that only I got money, that Grandpa was old and confused when he wrote it. I felt my blood pressure rise. I told them Grandpa was perfectly clear-minded. He knew exactly what he was doing. Dylan spoke up, then his voice shaking. He said he just needed a loan, that he would pay me back. I looked at him, then at Sarah. She was nodding at him encouragingly. I asked again why my girlfriend was involved in a family financial discussion. Uncomfortable silence filled the room. My mom said Sarah was practically family. That was when I knew for sure. Something was very, very wrong. I left that meeting and went straight to the estate attorney the next day. I needed to know if my family could challenge the will. The attorney assured me it was ironclad. The money was 100% mine, but he also warned me that family members often try to contest wills, and I should protect my assets. I took his advice immediately. I moved all the money into separate accounts, set up an LLC, and created legal protections. I even changed my will so that if anything happened to me, the money would go to charity, not to my family. I felt like I was preparing for war with the people who were supposed to love me. That Friday night, Sarah told me she needed to talk. My heart raced. I thought maybe she was finally going to confess. Instead, she said she thought we should take a break. I asked why. She said I had changed since I got the money, that I was not the person she fell in love with. I sat there stunned. She was gaslighting me, making me the villain in a story where I was the victim. I was too exhausted to fight. I told her maybe she was right. She looked relieved and said she would stay with her sister for a while. I knew she was probably going to Dylan. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, feeling like everything I had built was crumbling around me. Sunday evening came. My parents called another emergency family meeting. They said everyone had to attend, that there was important news. I drove over in a daze, numb from everything that had happened. When I walked in, they were all already there. Mom, Dad, Dylan, and Sarah. Sarah would not look at me. My mom seemed nervous but excited. My dad told me to sit down. He said they had news. Sarah stood up. Her hands were trembling. She said she was pregnant. The world stopped. Just completely stopped. My first thought was that the baby was mine. We had been careful, but maybe something had happened. I started to stand up, a smile forming on my face despite everything. I was about to say congratulations when my mom interrupted. She said, "Is not it wonderful news?" Something in her tone made me freeze. Then Dylan stood up. His face was pale, his eyes red. He said he needed to tell me something. I looked at him confused. He took a breath and said, "The baby is mine." Silence. Complete, ringing silence. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I looked at Sarah, and she was crying, looking down at her hands. I looked at my parents, and their faces told me they already knew. I looked back at Dylan. I could only get out one word. "What?" It came out broken, barely a whisper. Sarah started explaining through tears. She said it just happened that they did not mean for it to go this far, that they fell in love. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, like they might give out. Dylan said he loved her, that he really did, that they wanted to be a family. I turned to my parents and asked if they knew. My mom said they found out last week. My dad said they were all adjusting to the news. I repeated the word. Adjusting. Then I yelled it. Adjusting. It was the first time I had raised my voice at them in years. My mom reached for my hand. I yanked it away. She said they were going to need help, that the baby would need things. I stared at her in disbelief. I asked if she seriously wanted me to help them. My dad said Dylan was having my brother's child, that the baby was family. Dylan actually had the nerve to say that I had $2 million, that he knew it was messed up, but they needed me. Sarah, still crying, said she never wanted to hurt me. Then my mom dropped the bomb. She said they thought it was only fair that I give Dylan half the inheritance. For the baby. My dad backed her up, saying the money should have been split anyway, that this was a sign. Dylan said I was set for life and he had nothing, that he was going to be a father. My mom said if I loved my brother, if I loved this family, I would do what was right. Sarah begged me, saying, "Please, for the baby." They were all looking at me, all of them expecting me to cave, like I always had. The dependable one, the one who sacrifices, the one who puts everyone else first. I stood there for a long moment. I looked at each of them. My mother, who was supposed to protect me. My father, who was supposed to teach me self-respect. My brother, who was supposed to have my back. And Sarah, who I had loved and trusted for 3 years. Then I spoke. My voice was completely calm, almost cold. I said, "No." Just that one word. My mom asked what I meant. I repeated it. "No, not $1. My dad started to say something about talking it through. I held up my hand. I told them Grandpa left that money to me, not to this family. To me. Dylan tried to interrupt, saying we were brothers. I cut him off. I said brothers do not sleep with each other's girlfriends. Sarah reached for me, saying my name. I told her she did not get to ask me for anything ever again. My voice was still calm. That made it more powerful. I told my parents they wanted to know why Grandpa left everything to me. I said it was because I was there. Every hospital visit. Every tough night. Where was Dylan out partying? Where were they too busy? Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. He knew who would waste the money and who would not. My dad stood up angry now. He said if I walked out that door without helping my brother, I was not welcome in this family. My mom said I was choosing money over family. I told them I was not choosing money. I was choosing self-respect. I said they were choosing a cheater and a liar over me, so do not flip this around. Dylan tried one more time, saying, "Please." I told him not to call me that he lost the right to call me his brother. I walked to the door. Sarah followed, asking if we could talk. I turned and asked what we would talk about. How she destroyed 3 years, how she was having his baby, or how they all planned this and expected me to just pay for their betrayal. She stammered that it was not planned like that. I told her it did not matter anymore. She made her choice. I left. They were calling after me. I did not look back. My hands were shaking, but I kept walking. Monday morning, I called my attorney. I told him I needed to protect my inheritance immediately. He moved the money to even more secure accounts, set up additional legal protections. I blocked all my family members on my phone, email, and social media. I changed the locks on my house because Sarah had a key. I took a week off work. I needed time to process what had just happened. Over the next few months, I heard things through Mark. Dylan called from different numbers. I never answered. My lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to my family. My parents tried to visit my house. I did not open the door. Sarah sent me a long email apologizing and trying to explain. I deleted it after reading the first line. Mutual friends reached out saying my family was struggling. I told them it was not my problem anymore. 2 months later, Mark told me Dylan and Sarah had moved into a cheap apartment together. Dylan was working 2 jobs, one at a fast food place and one doing night shifts at a warehouse. Sarah was working retail. Her pregnancy was difficult. My parents were helping financially, but they were not rich. They were draining their savings trying to support Dylan and Sarah. My mom called Mark and begged him to convince me to help. Mark told her they made their bed. 4 months after that night, the baby was born. Mark told me. I felt nothing. Maybe slight sadness, but mostly I was just numb. Dylan sent a birth announcement to my workplace. I threw it away without looking at it. My parents sent a letter saying I had a nephew and asking if I wanted to meet him. I did not respond. My lawyer kept monitoring the situation. There were no legal challenges to the will. They could not afford an attorney. By month 9, Mark told me Sarah and Dylan were fighting constantly. Money stress, baby stress, and the reality that their relationship was built on betrayal. Dylan was asking old friends for loans. Everyone refused. My parents were exhausted both emotionally and financially. My mom had a health scare from the stress. My dad's business slowed down because he was distracted. A year after that terrible Sunday, Sarah and Dylan broke up. Dylan moved back in with our parents. Sarah moved back in with hers. They started a custody battle, but neither could afford a proper lawyer. Dylan called me one last time. He left a voicemail saying he knew he did not deserve anything, but he was sorry. He said he destroyed everything and I was right to walk away. I listened to the message. Then I deleted it. I did not call back. 1 year after cutting them all off, I moved to Seattle. Fresh start. I used the inheritance exactly how Grandpa would have wanted. I bought a modest 3-bedroom house and paid cash. No mortgage, no debt. I invested $1.2 million in a diverse portfolio that would grow over time. I used $300,000 to start my own engineering consulting firm. Within 6 months, I had 3 employees and steady clients. The rest I kept in savings. I was living comfortably, but not extravagantly. I thought about Grandpa every day and hoped he was proud. I met a woman named Lorne at an industry conference. She was an architect, 34 years old kind, and completely independent. On our 3rd date, I told her about the inheritance. I wanted to be honest from the start. Her reaction was perfect. She said that was great, but she was interested in me, not my bank account. We took things slow. She had her own successful career, her own money. She never asked me for anything. Being with her felt completely different from being with Sarah. It felt healthy. It felt right. One Saturday afternoon, I was working on my laptop in a coffee shop in Seattle. My parents walked in. I looked up and saw them freeze. Apparently, Dylan had moved to Seattle too, and they were visiting him. I nodded at them and turned back to my laptop. My mom approached the table. She said my name quietly. I looked up calmly and said, "Mom, Dad." My dad asked if we could talk. I could see they had aged. My mom's hair was much grayer. My dad's shoulders were slumped in a way I had never seen before. They sat down. My mom said they had wanted to apologize for so long. My dad said they were wrong about everything. They told me what had happened over the past year. Dylan and Sarah's relationship fell apart after 8 months. Neither of them could financially care for the baby properly. The child was being raised mostly by Sarah's parents. Dylan was depressed, working a dead-end job, barely making ends meet. My parents had drained their retirement savings trying to help. My mom started crying. She said they destroyed our family for nothing. My mom said they were not asking for money. They just missed me. My dad said I was right about everything, that Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. My mom told me Dylan had admitted the truth in therapy. He was jealous. He pursued Sarah specifically to hurt me. When she got pregnant, he panicked but felt trapped. My dad said they thought they were helping family, but they forgot I was family too. He said I was the one who was actually hurt, and they made it worse. I listened quietly. I felt sadness for them maybe, but no desire to go back to how things were. I told them I appreciated them saying that. My mom asked if we could try again slowly. I said I did not know that I needed time, that maybe someday we could. My dad said that was fair, that they understood. He asked if they could at least have my phone number in case of emergency. I gave them my email address instead. I told them if they really needed me, they could reach out there and I would respond. They accepted this. We hugged awkwardly, then they left. A week later, I got an email from Dylan. It was long and detailed. He took full responsibility for everything. He admitted jealousy drove all his choices. He said I always had my life together and he resented me for it. When Grandpa left me, everything he felt worthless. He said he was in therapy now and understood he sabotaged his own life. He wrote that he did not expect forgiveness, he just wanted me to know he saw what he did. I read the email twice. I felt something like closure. I wrote back a short message. I said I appreciated his honesty and hoped he figured things out. I told him to take care of his son. He responded thanking me and saying it meant a lot. We did not correspond again after that. Now I sit on my porch in Seattle most mornings. Lauren is usually inside making breakfast. I hear birds chirping and watch the sun rise over the trees. I think about the past 2 years. The pain was real. It nearly broke me. But walking away was the right choice. I learned that family is not about obligation. It is about respect. Money does not change people. It reveals who they already are. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is survival. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is saying no. Grandpa's inheritance was not just money. It was a lesson about knowing my worth. My business is thriving now. My relationship with Lauren is healthy and built on honesty. My peace of mind is priceless. I see my parents maybe once a year for coffee. We are civil but distant. I never saw Dylan again after that email exchange. I do not wonder about Sarah anymore. I invested in my own life instead of trying to fix theirs. People ask me if I regret how it ended. They expect me to say yes, to say family is everything. But family is supposed to love you and support you. They are not supposed to betray you and then demand you pay for it. The inheritance taught me something Grandpa probably knew I would need to learn. Sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Sometimes the family you build is better than the family you were born into. Grandpa's money gave me freedom, but my decision gave me something worth far more: self-respect, and that you cannot put a price on. I hope wherever he is, he knows I used his gift well. Not just the money, but the lesson that came with it. He taught me that I deserved better, and I finally believed him. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to walk away from family? Have you ever chosen yourself when everyone told you that was selfish? Drop a comment below and share your story. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength when life tests you. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to set boundaries, even with the people who are supposed to love you most. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who is struggling with a similar choice. Remember, choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Take care of yourselves out there and know that you deserve respect, loyalty, and love. Always.